Hey, podcast world, it's Antoine Medley, and I'm the host and creator of the Force Pivot podcast. I want to welcome you guys to our season one, episode two. I hope you were able to take a listen to our last show last week, where we had a good talk with Patrick Patterson. I think it was really good chat. I've known Patrick for a little while, and the brother is a very motivating brother, and I want to thank him for coming on the show because he helped me, kick this thing off in the right way. And I told him that I'm starting up here, with my guests, and it's like how high can I go, right? So my hopes and goal, is to definitely bring on more people week to week, to allow you guys to hear stories of other people of how they dealt with forced pivots, whether it was a something they did on their own by choice, or whether life forced them to go a certain route that they may not have even thought they were going to go. And I know for me, that's I mean, I've had that in my life, and I'm pretty sure that we all have stories because of the pandemic. That March 2020, everybody was forced to pivot in a way that they never thought they were going to have to do before, but we did. And I think the good thing is, if you listen to me tonight, the good thing is you're still here. You're still here. I'm still here. A lot of people aren't, and God bless them. But the ones that are here, I think we're fortunate. We're blessed that we are here still. And I think it is our job to let people know, or know our stories. How we dealt with the pandemic. But again, before the pandemic, we had everyday life. And we have everyday life during the pandemic. We have everyday life after the pandemic. How are we dealing with the things that are going on in our lives today? How do we deal with those things that happened pre the world changing? But regardless of what happens in the world, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's a, gosh, I don't know, anything, when you think about 9/11, right? 9/11 was a major pivot, in this country. It was a major pivot in the world because a lot of things happened after that, right? A lot of things, were 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 pushed into place and put into motion after that. And I mean, though that's just an example of something that could happen and change everyday life for so many people. I know for me, I remember 9/11. I remember that day. My brother. I introduced you guys to my brother that passed this past August. But I remember that day. He and my other brother were headed to. I think they were headed to Charlotte. One of my brothers was a Navy recruiter, and so he was putting my brother into the Navy, the one that passed. So he was putting it into the Navy, and I remember they told me that day, 9/11, that day, my brothers were on the road headed to Charlotte to drop him off to catch a plane to basic training. And 9/11 happened and things changed, and air traffic, that all that came to a halt. And my brother told me he remembers asking my other brother, hey, are you still going to do this? Because you think, okay, 9/11 happens, I'm headed to basic training for the military. um we probably going to war, and so he hadn't got the basic training yet, so was he still going to do this? And I remember so well. I mean, he told me that my brother looked at him and said, yeah, I'm still going to go. So that was that was a pivot point. 9/11 was a pivot point, for the world, but it was a pivot point for my family. You know because my brother made a decision. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go serve my country, no matter what. And those are the kind of choices that we make every day. We make different choices every day that could send our lives off into, you know we all hope a good space, but sometimes some of the choices we make send our lives into a tailspin. you know but either way, we have to, like I told you guys last week, either way, whether we make the choice, whether it's forced upon us, it's like, gosh, and I know it's easy to say, but just try to have faith with your choices. Try to have faith with, when you're put into places that you're not comfortable with, and you gotta sink or swim. Try to have faith regardless of the situation. Because again, life is going to be life. You know, you are going to have to make a choice on how you're going to respond to the pushes and pulls of life, no matter what. You know, I mean, if you're human, you're gonna have to make those decisions, and they're not always easy. Um, and I try to preach that to my daughters. It's like, no decision in life is going to be an easy one, but you got to make the decision and you've got to go do what you've said you're going to do, or go do what you feel that you have to do, because that's the only way you're going to, sometimes it's the only way we're going to learn. Sometimes you can only learn lessons by doing things. you know, I mean, I know I joke sometimes that my brothers and I were so different. It's like, I remember, like, if my dad told me that thing right there was hot, I wouldn't touch it. But one of my other brothers is like, my dad said that thing is hot, he's going to touch it. Right. So, but he's making the decision to touch that hot thing, so he'll have to deal with the consequences, right? And so, it's like we have to live and learn, and live and learn. I mean, that's what life is, and we're living and learning. When life happens to us, and we're living and learning when we decide to go out here and make our own decisions and moves, and move around in that, what is that minefield of life, because you just never know what's going to happen. Your next step in life could be, a tragic one. It's just about decisions, man. Life's all about decisions, and how you're going to react to them when you make those decisions, and how you're going to react when things move in your life, when you're standing still, and that happens as well. We'll all, I know sometimes, we'll find a peace in our life, and we'll think we're doing okay, and then, think the ground will shift under your feet, and you won't even know what happened to you. You won't even know what happened. But guess what? You got to deal with it. You can't simply let things shift under you, and you just let it run amok. You got to deal with it. You got to try your best to get your footing, and have faith that you can do that. Pray. Do whatever can do. Ask for help. I was listening to a video yesterday, and this brother was talking about how as men, how as black men, we need to have a team of other men in our life that we can call on at any moment, for anything, you know, being as transparent as possible. You need to have some people around you where you can just say, I can call on XYZ because I know he will be there to help me. He won't ask me questions, he won't judge me, but he will be there to help me. And I was like, man, that is really, that is profound, because again, I mean, I know people that are going through things, and people don't share. When I think about black men, I'm a black man. We don't share. We don't share as much as I think we should. About the things that are going on in our life. Whether a pivot that we made has just thrown us completely into chaos, and then you're in chaos alone. I don't think there's anything worse than that. Being in chaos by yourself. But you need to have people that are going to encourage you, people that are going to motivate you, people that are going to mentor you to make good decisions, and to move on in your life, and do things that you should be doing. So, but I'll stop. I'll stop rattling on with that. Um, I do have a guest for us tonight. If some of you saw the flyer, I've got Steve Miller coming on, and Steve is and like I would say an area director for the United Negro College Fund, right? And I've known Steve for a long time. He happens to be my uncle, right? He's my uncle, and I thought I would bring him on because when I talk about motivators, mentors, and people that try to help you move in life, Steve's one of those people. I think I'm trying to think. I think I remember. I met Steve. Steve married my mom's sister. He married my aunt, and I think I remember meeting him. Might have been the summer before I left to go to college. Can't remember. I know I was at his wedding, but I think I really, really got to know him the summer before I went to college. And he told me, he was like, hey, when you get to Virginia Tech, stay in the library, be a nerd. He's like, he said when you get out, the nerds make the most money. He said you'll you'll thank me for that. You know, but I can say transparently, I can say I didn't do that. I went to school. I didn't stay in that library the way I should, And again, college life is going to push and pull, and life pushed and pulled me until it almost pushed me out. But thank God I survived, and I did graduate. And my aunt Karen, they were there. They were at the graduation, and I just remember that conversation so well. So I'm going to bring him on now, and let him introduce himself. Hold on, Uncle Steve. Hey, man.
Antoine, thanks for having me, brother. It's a
Hey, man.
blessing. It's a
Thanks.
blessing.
Thanks for being on. Thanks for being on. But go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, to the listeners, and let them know a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, I give all praise and glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who strengthens me, and I appreciate you. I've been living vicariously through you for many years. I am a humble servant, an average person who's an overachiever, and really just humbled to be a part of this program talking about forced pivot, because in my lifetime, I've had a number of opportunities to make change, react, pivot in any number of ways and reasons. So I am originally from Columbus, Ohio. I went to all boys prep school here, St. Charles Preparatory School, which now I'm a board member of, and which is another full circle opportunity where we are working to recruit minority teachers to fill the roles that were never there when I was in school. So that's exciting. Was fortunate enough to play college basketball in Texas and in North Carolina, and had an injury. Didn't finish my collegiate basketball career. Ended up moving to Washington, D.C., where I met your aunt, which was another opportunity there in the district, coming from Ohio, in the nation's capital, in a very unique city. I started out as a professional in sales in Washington, D.C., selling office supplies and office furniture. And I think I've told you this story many times. I wore out 4 pair of shoes in my territory, just going door to door, learning the business and learning the area, and really cut my teeth in that market. Then I had an opportunity to move back to Columbus, Ohio, where my hometown was, to work with my brother Marcus, who is now the chief diversity officer for the city of Chicago. But at that time, he was selling office furniture. I said, if he can do it, I can do it. So that was kind of my first forced pivot, moving from Washington, D.C. back to Columbus. And I worked for Continental Office at that time, was one of the country's largest Herman Miller dealerships, and really was the best training and development that I got as a salesperson. It was an outstanding organization that really taught me how to sell. And I worked there for 5 years and enjoyed that opportunity. Then a forced pivot opportunity. Your aunt at the time had an opportunity to take a job with her company, State Farm, and we moved to Atlanta. Really had never been there before, really didn't know anybody, but set out to change my career, still in office furniture, but for a different manufacturer, Steelcase, which was a competitive product, and really enjoyed the 18 years I was in Atlanta in a number of capacities. And if you remember, that's right when you were coming out of college, and with you and some of your classmates, we had a number of educational opportunities in the summertime Uh,
I remember when I came to Atlanta the first summer, um, that first summer, man. And Atlanta just changed my life. And I was like, you know what? When I graduate college, I'm coming to Atlanta. And I think from that point, every break I had, I was in Atlanta.
yeah,
Christmas break, I was in Atlanta. Spring break, I was in Atlanta. Freaknik, I was in Atlanta. You
yeah.
name it, I was in Atlanta. And I could not wait to get there, man. But you were just, I don't know. I'm a country boy, small hometown, And when I saw you in my eye, I was just like, man, you were like the Huxtables to me. And I was like, man, And then when I came to Atlanta, and I remember so well because you guys were searching for a house, and you were building a house, and after the house was built, I was just like, I've got to live like this. I got to live like this. I'm like, if college is going to get me there, then I got to go back to school and get myself straight. And so
And,
that I
and you have, and you have done so much, and we're all so proud of you. And I told you then that I want to be like you when I grow up. And you are constantly blessing us with your endeavors and your spirit and the work that you've done, the work that we've done, working with young people. And there's a number of people that we try to lift as we climb and bring other people along. So there was a number of folks in her family, your family, my family that came through Atlanta, during that time.
mhm,
And it was a very interesting time. The Olympics, then the
mhm, mhm,
bombing. I was at
yeah,
the park, when the Olympic bomb happened. So that was, very interesting. And
yeah,
then after almost 18 years, unfortunately, I ended up divorcing your aunt and ended up moving back to Ohio, which was a forced pivot, but it really created other opportunities uh, that, life throws you curveballs and situations, and you have to really be prepared to move forward. And I've always said that it's not so much what happens to you, but it's what you do about it.
right,
And I was fortunate enough to have some training and some relationships that enabled me to continue. I went back to work for Continental Office, a company I worked for before I moved to Atlanta, worked there for another 5 years, and then made a different transition, which was kind of a forced pivot, but I was really getting burnt out on commission sales, the
mhm,
stress and the up and down. And even when I was as a sales manager for the Ivan Allen Company, uh, I was the only African American manager that company had in over 100 years. So there was definitely opportunities and challenges that took me to and through, and I learned a lot while I was there. But it was, there were some challenging times in that, even though it was some great learning opportunity. So when I came back to Columbus and was just back in a sales role, I wasn't in a VP role any longer. I was, like, hey, you know what? I really want a different challenge.
mhm,
So I got involved in philanthropy
right,
because I had been involved, as you know, with a number of mentoring organizations because I felt like I had been very successful because of all the people that had helped me,
right,
coaches, teachers, family members, that really made a difference, that fed into me. And I wanted to take that same opportunity. So in
right.
Atlanta, I was a member of 100 Black Men. We, had a mentoring program there. Came back home and worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Worked with my church. Started a mentoring program called Josiah, where we work with young people. Uh,
Now,
then
I, now I remember when I left Atlanta after I got married. We left Atlanta, and you told me, you were like, man, when you get to Raleigh, you know, go find the 100, go find the 100, go. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so when I got up here, I was looking around. It's like I couldn't find the chapter, and I
right,
was like gung ho and ready. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this on my own. So I put my head down and start doing the research and doing what I need to do to say, well, how do I start a nonprofit? How do I do this? How do I incorporate it? Blah, blah, blah. How do I get my 501c3? So I kind of buried my head into that. And you remember, because I started the Future Black Men of America. So
That's right.
we
That's
started
right.
our own program.
Right.
And
Right.
then, started working with kids. And then, that morphed into the Cornell West Academy.
Right.
Right.
And I remember that conversation when you called me and said, hey, I really want to do this. And maybe I was thinking about Thurgood Marshall, but I don't know about the intellectual property because he's deceased.
Right.
And I said, well, hey, what about Dr. West?
Right.
And I said, hey, just call him up.
Yeah, man. And I that's a story in itself. I mean, I remember sending Dr. West an email, right?
Right.
And his assistant got the email, and she responded. She's like, okay, well, I'll let Dr. West know. And when she let him know, in 3 hours, man, she emailed me back, and she said, well, Dr. West said, yeah, you can use his name and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I remember my brother and I, Duran, we were working together at the time, and we were sitting and we were working on the government contract, and we sat back to back. And I remember talking to Duran about to send this email. I sent the email, and then when I got the reply back, I twirled back. I said, Duran, guess what? We got a yes. and that was it, man. And we were running. I remember you came, and we took the boys up to Princeton.
Yeah, I remember that was an amazing trip. We took
and 3 vans of little boys from K to 5. Well, 2nd to 5th grade. We took about, I don't know, 30 boys up to Princeton.
Yeah,
Dr. West gave us a guided tour around the Princeton campus, and I was like, little boys that age, they really didn't know where they were. They did, but they didn't. But I was just like a kid in the candy shop. I was blown away that we were actually there doing that.
But you have to go back and look at some of those young people that were in some of those first cohorts with the Cornell West Academy, and where they are now, and the impact you've had on their lives, their families' lives, which has led to you doing a lot of the work that you're doing now. And I think sky's the limit for your vision and passion and wanting to help young people. And I've been blessed to share some of the opportunities and experiences that I have. And as I said before, living vicariously through you, you're going to be able to accomplish much more than I've ever been able to accomplish. What we do together and what we do as we meet other people around the country that have the same passion and really understand why this work is so important. And even though things change and we're forced to pivot, we've kind of moved away from, some of the things we're doing with Cornell West to other opportunities. But those experiences and memories are powerful. So when I got back to Columbus and with that inspiration, Dr. West came to Columbus. We chopped it up here in town, and that was exciting. But the work with Josiah, I also started an organization called My Brother's Keeper at the All Boys Prep School that I was at to recruit and retain minority students. So I've been involved with the Mentoring Center of Central Ohio, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Josiah, MBK, with my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. Fraternity Incorporated. We started the Omega Gents, working with young people. So I've been passionate about working with young people, and which created an opportunity for the big pivot was when I was working at St. Charles in a development office. The principal came to me and said, "Hey, Steve, this is a godsend because I want to offer you a job." I wasn't looking for a job, but he said, "Hey, this is made perfect for you." And it was. And that started me working at the high school and starting the other mentoring programs and getting involved, which led me, after I worked there for 5 years, I went to work for Mount Carmel, which is a hospital system here in Columbus, as a chief foundation officer, raising money for the foundation, which was a great opportunity. I sat in the C-suite with the hospital president, chief nursing officer. It was a great opportunity.
So that pivot for you, Um, that's, I mean, that seemed like it was just right up your alley. I mean, it was just, we chatted up a little bit before, and it's like, when things, for me, when things happen like that, when things sort of line up and those pivots are that happen and they're just laid at your feet, um, and it's something that you really want to do, and that it's around a passion of yours. For me, I look at those things like, I mean, that's all God, and that's the way I need to move, right? Because again, you went from sales to giving director for a hospital. That's a, you know, it's like I'm selling. I'm doing this philanthropic arm, but I can see how you're successful in that because of the skills that you had from sales and the type of person that you are. From
Well,
what I know,
part
it's
of
like,
that was grown out of just timing and opportunity,
mhm,
Antoine. One of my high school classmates had the position at St. Charles. He brought me on with him. He left St. Charles to go to Mount Carmel. He brought me back to Mount Carmel with him.
mhm, mhm,
Then he left there and went to Ohio Dominican University, where I was the major gifts officer and in charge of executive leadership gifts. So it was a powerful opportunity. But what I did not know at the time, when I first came back to St. Charles, is that the two subsequent job opportunities I was going to get, I could not have taken them if there wasn't another pivot that was in there.
right,
Because as I said, I played basketball at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. I was injured. I never finished my degree.
right,
So, I figured I had to hustle to make some money. So I was selling and making good money.
mhm,
Built two beautiful homes. You've been to both of them. You know that. But my mom asked me every day, when are you going to finish? When are you going to finish? When are you going to finish? So luckily, when I came back to Columbus, one of my old friends said, "Hey, Steve, you need to look into this program at Wilberforce University. It's a climb program. It's an adult learning program. You can get your degree in 15 months." And the school I was working at said they would pay for it. So I was like, I'm all in. So
right,
it put me into an HBCU college when I had never planned that was going to happen to me.
right,
And if that didn't happen, I never would have been able to take the job at Mount Carmel
right,
or the other ones. And also, now that I work for United Negro College Fund, it was even that much more. God had it in his plan years
right,
before I could even fathom what I was going to be doing.
right,
So that turnaround came about through selling office furniture to starting in philanthropy at the high school I went to, then going to the Mount Carmel Foundation at the hospital system, then going to Ohio Dominican University. And I was also the development director for the First Tee. So we did that, and brought the game of golf to inner city kids,
mhm,
which was a great opportunity. Not really knowing that the next pivot was going to take me to being the corporate relations director for the Ohio Minority Supplier Development Council, which was an opportunity that kind of took me away from philanthropy, but helped me help minority businesses get contracts from corporate partners.
mhm,
So all that background I had in sales really worked out to help bring opportunities to smaller businesses, to larger businesses. And oh, by the way, this is all about relationships and partnerships and blessings. My brother Marcus, as I mentioned, uh, had been the national vice president for UNCF.
mhm.
He had also been the national vice president for the National Minority Supplier Development Council.
So he, so
So
he, so here you are, sales. The things happen, and you wound back up in Ohio, and and now, you got your degree from an HBCU, from historically Black College University, and now you're a development manager for UNCF.
yeah,
I mean, that's like,
crazy.
it is, that's like
Yeah,
storybook, right? It's
yeah,
just it's just a natural progression from from corporate America to passion to, now you're there helping kids, attend these HBCUs that, that you're an alumni of,
Right. And it's really, if I would have told you 10 years ago this is going to happen, you'd have said, Uncle Steve, you're crazy.
no,
Well,
I would have believed it.
but the blessing, Antoine, is that everything happens for a reason, and you just have to kind of go with what God puts in front of you. And again, there's no such thing as luck. It's just timing and opportunity.
Mhm.
When somebody approached my brother to say, "Hey, look, we're looking for somebody," he goes, "Oh, I know somebody that's perfect for that."
Mhm.
He happens to be my brother, but it gave me the opportunity for the introduction for OMSDC and then to UNCF. Both my parents graduated from historically Black college. Both of my grandfathers attended historically Black college. So I'm third generation, which is rare. So for me to have the opportunity to represent UNCF in Ohio and Kentucky, to offer scholarships and internships and educational opportunities for minority students that otherwise may not have had that opportunity, it's a blessing for me. But also inside of that, the forced pivot that we all had to deal with or suffer through was during COVID, because I really had just started my job over the first 2 years, and we had made our goal. We had some momentum. We were doing great things, and then COVID hit.
Right.
And so we had to totally change just about everything we were doing, but it still did not lessen the need, because the need was greater for minority students, because our minority students were disproportionately impacted during COVID.
Right.
Our HBCU institutions were disproportionately impacted due to COVID, and they were relying on us to help raise money to keep the schools open and keep the kids in school, but we had to do it virtually.
Right. I mean, because my daughter, Morgan was a senior, and she, we went through that whole process of, trying to secure funds for her to attend school, and she wound up at Tuskegee, and you had told me to go look out at UNCF, so we were definitely out there. We were applying the scholarships here and there. So I know just from my working with her through that whole process that the whole college, the whole college admittance program changed. Everything changed, right?
Yep.
So what beyond everything going virtual? I mean, was the virtual piece the only piece that changed within UNCF?
Well, no, actually, the virtual piece was it was a paradigm shift for the organization. This organization has been doing this work for over 77 years, starting in 1944. And much of the work that we were doing, everybody remembers the Lou Rawls Parade of Stars. That kind of went away. So we started doing more localized events and fundraising around individual cities rather than just a national. But when you couldn't meet in person, you couldn't have that personal interaction with corporations, with the mayors, the governors, major donors. So that technology pivot was new for an old organization, and there's many organizations that aren't here anymore because they couldn't adjust or adapt to COVID. But UNCF was very fortunate, very forward thinking, and had a lot of young, talented people from historically Black colleges. Dr. Lomax, our president, was very forward thinking in how we were going to be creative on approaching the marketplace through social media, Zoom, Teams, Facebook, you name it, just to try to keep our name out there. But we ended up closing our office, because the riots that happened in many cities, our office was damaged. And my staff didn't want to go downtown. So, that affected us. And we're still not back in office. And I don't think we'll go back in office. So companies found out that the productivity level didn't drop off as much as they thought that was going to. But of course, it created other challenges. But last year, we had our most successful year of fundraising. Raising over $200 million, and as we continue to grow, uh, pivoting from totally virtual into some hybrid events now with a combination of uh, virtual and in person. We hope with no additional variant opportunities
Right.
that we'll get closer back to normal this summer and into the fall. So it's
So
been a challenge.
right.
Uh, the pivot didn't just affect us as an organization. It affected some of our corporate partners because they had to lean into the reality of what was going on in our country from a social justice standpoint. Discrimination, George Floyd, racism, police violence, all those things really made a lot of organizations take a look at what their priority was. And from a diversity and inclusion and workforce diversity, educational diversity, we were a partner that those companies could look at to help navigate them through specifically talent
Hmm.
and talent identification. We scholarship kids to go to any 2 or 4 year accredited institution, not just historically Black colleges. So there's kids that we scholarship to go to Virginia Tech, go to Ohio State, go to Harvard, Yale,
Right.
Hampton, Howard. So uh,
Let me ask you this. Even though UNCF pivoted, you guys changed your model to keep up with what was going on with the pandemic. Do you think families pivoted well enough to keep to help fund their kids for school, or do you
well,
think we struggled there?
Antoinette, that's a great question, and I think that I can't speak for all families. I can
Hmm.
only speak to a number of families that I work with and organizations that I work with. It was difficult
Hmm.
because you had some school districts that didn't have the proper tools to be successful, even to deliver a daily curriculum. So it was very hard for some families to identify and source all the information that was needed. I mean, what you had to go through
Right.
and how hard you had to work, and you can only imagine there's many parents that weren't armed with those type of tools and knowledge and support to help their kids. First of all, let's take out applying for college. Let's talk about just getting Wi-Fi or doing homework
Hmm.
or just trying not to get sick. uh you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a lot, and we also know that as a country, and especially in our communities, in our African American communities, we've had considerable academic learning loss due to COVID. Attendance was way down in many of our public schools. Engagement was way down. So we can almost say that some of our kids lost a whole year. So we have
Yeah.
to make that time up in order to prepare them to be successful in any college that they're going to go to.
Right. And I know, and, again, I think I mentioned it last week in my household, we locked down like everybody, but I'm completely aware that, a lot of families couldn't do that.
Yeah,
A lot of families still had to, a lot of parents still had to go to work, risk getting sick. It's like either I don't feed my kids or I risk getting sick. It's like, there's some hard choices that have to be made. And I know my girls, um, they did well in online school. My youngest, that first year online school was her best year of high school. I mean, she's a junior
yeah,
now, but she just like went through the roof. It was like, and seeing those grades, her confidence went up. I mean, it's just like, like I said, I think with this pandemic, um, if there were any golden linings of the pandemic, I hope people can identify those, because I think there in some cases there are some, in some cases they're not, and I know that, but again, when we had to shift. you know, I was praying that everybody would be successful, and I was hearing the stories about, of course, some people don't have Wi-Fi, and then the schools are trying to send little Wi-Fi things home with kids, and they were trying to give kids Chromebooks, and it was just like, I mean, some of the stuff that happened in this country, I never thought I would see.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see some of the things that I saw.
Well,
And it's like, why
unfortunately,
don't we just do that anyway?
yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, we saw some glaring disparities in education, from a K through 12 standpoint, and even in higher ed. UNCF's been involved in K through 12 advocacy for many, many years, and really fought to make sure that our member HBCUs got funding from the federal government to stay open. We had emergency student assistance loans and aid that was available that worked on degree completion, emergency retention of grants, emergency loans, food insecurity. I mean, there were kids on campus that decided to go to campus, or that stayed home, that the cafeteria wasn't open or didn't provide what they needed. Housing insecurity, dorms weren't open. So it really challenged a lot for schools and students. And then there was also, some disaster relief. We had some hurricanes or tornadoes. And it was really two of the toughest years that we've seen. But, we were able to pivot. We provided our student professional development program and our leadership conference that we had done in person in Atlanta, and our STEM program out on the West Coast. That all went virtual. And we were still able to deliver that content and stay connected with those kids. Our internship programs, where we were interviewing and matching students with jobs, that all went virtual. And we were able to actually reach more kids that way, and more companies leaned in because they figured that once they kind of came out of this, they were going to need that diverse talent to stay competitive.
Right.
But we also learned that those inequities created an opportunity for entrepreneurship and new ideas, which, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
So
Right.
many things change that are never going to be the same.
Right.
And we've done some of that internally, externally at UNCF. Many colleges have had to do things differently. A lot of the physical plant at some of these campuses is not going to be used. There's a lot of corporate office space that's not going to be used because people are going to be working from home. There's a whole different level of intellectual transfer from a productivity standpoint of people working from home. So our world and our lives have changed forever because we've been forced to pivot to deal with the reality of how this pandemic, social justice, has really affected all of us. And I'm excited to be a part of an organization that has survived for 77 years, raised over $5 billion. We're the largest provider of financial aid for minority students outside of, only second to the federal government. And, we're continuing to grow and look at new ways of engaging students on campus, students at home, new technology, and identifying different ways that we could fund the future to help our minority students really take that next step up into the middle class.
Right. So let me go back. I know when you moved, when you said when you landed back in Ohio, um, that was a forced pivot. But I met your parents, and when you landed back in Ohio, was your mom still alive? Both your parents?
Yes, yeah. Both my parents were still alive, but she was having some health issues.
Right.
and she had dementia and some other. So uh, I was her primary caregiver for many years uh, until she passed away, and then I was here with my dad until he passed away. So
And that's where I'm going. It's like, that pivot, you landed in Ohio, right? But that gave you something that you may not have gotten. You see them. You see where I'm going.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you were there with your mom when she
yeah.
passed. You were there with your dad when he passed. And it's like, I look at I think about this sometimes, like, these things that happen in our lives that may send us this way. And then, there's a time where you could possibly look at it and say, okay, you know how is this thing going to turn out? And then there's a then there's a rose that comes out of that, right? Because I mentioned last week, it's like, without COVID, like my brothers and I, we didn't talk every week, but during COVID, we talked 2 or 3 times a week. So COVID-19, I feel like it brought us together, and it brought us closer together. And I swear to you, I think it brought us closer together to be able to deal with my brother passing last August. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
So I look at COVID as like, it's a blessing it's a blessing and a curse. Um, but I think that there's so many things that came out of it, and there's so many things that other choices, like when you landed back in Ohio, what if you hadn't had that time with your mom, if you hadn't had that time with your dad, you probably wouldn't have had it the way at the at the measure of what you had it. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
and that's very true, Antoine. Because, like I said, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
My parents were, I believe that they were healthy, when I came back.
Hmm.
But that was not the only opportunity or challenge that I had. I married a wonderful woman, when I came back to Columbus. And 9 months after we got married, her only son passed away of type 1 diabetes. So, we had to deal with that. We're still dealing with that loss. And that was going on at the same time as my mother's health was deteriorating. My dad's health had began to deteriorate. So, God doesn't put more on you than you can bear. But it was still a very difficult time. But it was an opportunity to keep me focused. Uh, and being a caregiver gives you a different perspective and a different appreciation. But it also makes you more selfless to try to help other people. So I think I, put more into the mentoring pieces that I was doing to help other students, because it was cathartic for me, to help me get through, those challenges, that I was going through, with losing Anthony, dealing with my mom, then dealing, with my dad. But, that which does not kill you only makes you stronger.
Hmm.
So, I've been just totally and truly blessed. And uh, part of what I love about what I'm doing and why we've been so successful is just because the passion. I mean, if you're doing something that you like, it's
Hmm.
not really work.
Right.
If you can help other people through the organization that I work with to support, young people, the work that I do with the mayors all over, we do these mayors luncheons all over the country and in the cities that I work in Ohio and Kentucky. I have great relationships, and they've all bought into what we're doing, uh, primarily because the passion that I believe that I bring to the table.
Right.
And I've been blessed to have, even though it's been pivoted opportunities, it's connected around, you know, working with young people, minority business development. Uh, and it's when you say Steve Miller, they know who I am and what I've done. So they know it's,
So let me ask
they
you a
know what you're
question.
getting.
What and my daughter, I mean Morgan's writing a paper on philanthropy. What philanthropy means to her. So what would be your definition? What's the Steve Miller definition of philanthropy?
Well, philanthropy to me boils down to three things: time, talent, and treasure.
Hmm.
And because time is money, and if you can give your time to an organization, that's valuable. Your talent is very important because nonprofits like ours and many others operate on paper thin budgets, low staff. So identifying talent, whether it be on your board of directors or volunteers, is very important. And your treasure are the blessings, the financial blessings that you have that you can share to make a difference in the lives of other people. So those are the three things that's what philanthropy really means. And historically, African Americans have been disproportionately more philanthropic than those, because those that are in need understand the need better than those that have a lot.
Right.
So,
Right.
we give a disproportionate amount of lower income people to support a number of opportunities. So, I think philanthropy is not just for super rich people; it's for
Right.
everybody,
Everybody.
and
Yeah.
that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Because like when I landed here, I sort of fell into a pool of people who were they were all philanthropic, like-minded people, right? And they sort of they sort of drowned me in philanthropy to a point where I haven't been able to shake it. You know, it's like I can't, and I've tried. I mean, not tried to shake it, but I mean, I've had other entrepreneurial ideas, but it's like it's hard for me to shake wanting to do something to help people, right? I mean, I've got a 9 to 5, and I've been working in IT for over 20 years, but every all of my spare time is done with working in, I would say, social entrepreneurship, right? Trying to help people, be better, do better, in some capacity. I've been doing that for so long, and it's because of the people that I've watched, and then I've watched you, move. You were doing philanthropic stuff in Atlanta, with the 100 and other things, and then and when I watched you totally, when you jumped off the side of the pool into it, I was like, wow. you know, and I've been trying to, like I mentioned with my man Patrick, it's like I've been trying to find my lane, and I'm finding that lane, and I'm self realizing that my lane is my lane, and there's nobody there. It's like I'm running on the track by myself in my lane, and I can run as fast as I want, or I can run as slow as I want, but there's nobody in my lane but me. And and for me, it's empowering, because I know what I'm capable of, and I can go and do those things. And
Well, you've motivated me in the work that I have done, just because how I've seen you move and pivot and grow as a father, as a philanthropist, as an IT professional, and I've said it once before, and I'll say it again. I want to be like you when I grow up, because we live vicariously through others, and your power and your passion. I told you this a long time ago, that you were going to be doing these kind of things.
and to stay
And
in the library, you know.
right. But it worked out, and
Yeah.
I'm just excited to be a part of your life, and hope that we can continue to challenge other people to do more, to be more, to give more, to really think outside the box, to really be adventurous, as it relates to what we found out about COVID. Is tomorrow's not promised.
No.
We've lost millions of people. The way of life has changed. So, you got to communicate differently. You got to live differently. You got to work differently, and you got to help differently. So,
Right. Right.
I'm just blessed to still be here, and still trying to make a difference with UNCF and with other things that I do.
Right. Well, man, look, you have been a motivation to me. Um, you've pushed me. I remember I remember times of calling you about things, and you would challenge me on some things. You push me hard. You'd ask the hard questions and make me sort of rethink, a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I'm not looking at that right, or maybe I need to think about this a different way. So,
Well,
I thank you for that.
if it
Over
was
the years.
easy, anybody could do it. But that's why you've inspired me because of how you think about things, how you process, and how you have opened up opportunities for me, for you, for others, for your family, for our family, people in the community, and I'm just seeing this as a start of more opportunities and more blessings to come. And I just feel, humbled to be on your team and to continue to tell our story, tell my story, and work with as many young people as possible and
And I, th- and I,
share.
and I think the one thing that you've shown me more, that's to sort of, it's like when it comes to wanting to do this work, there is no fear. There is no fear. It's like, go do it and be afraid of nothing. Because again, all the good work that other people have laid over the years, if they were afraid, they would, and if they let their fear overcome them, then we wouldn't be where we are today. There wouldn't be a UNCF if
Right.
somebody had been afraid and said, "I'm not going to do it."
Yeah, most people operate in either hope for gain or fear of loss.
Hmm.
And if you can operate under hope for gain, you know, there is no fear of loss because you just got to, I've always said, just you got to be and do, just, make it happen.
Right.
People that make things happen, are those that are successful. It doesn't mean it's always going to go right, but
Right.
you just have to keep moving forward, coming up with new ideas, putting yourself around positive people doing positive things. And I've said that for years as well. You're going to be judged by the people that you associate with,
Hmm.
and you want to put yourself around like-minded people that have the same vision and passion, and there's no way that you can fail in that regard.
Correct.
Your father and your mother, gave you a great upbringing as far from a character standpoint, from a Christian foundation. So I don't expect anything less than success.
Well, man, that's what I'm shooting for. Um, I used to get on my brother Dietrich a lot because I would give him compliments, and he would be like, "Man, I'm trying," and it would infuriate me because you're not trying, you're doing, right? So I need to start doing that myself. I'm taking that. Thank you. I'm not trying. I'm doing, and I'm going to be more confident in that myself, and just continue to try to, again, I'm in my lane. There's nothing in front of me, and I'm going to continue to run my race as fast as I can. So,
Yeah, I want
so
to leave you with something. I want you to change your lexicon about trying, because trying connotates expected failure.
right,
So start thinking about practice. I'm practicing because
right,
anything you practice, you get better at.
right, right.
So that's just another gem that I stole from somebody else that I'm passing on to you.
Well, look, I will take that. I will take that. I want to thank you for being my guest tonight, and and definitely, you and I, we chop it up all the time. So,
Anyway, right,
be,
right,
be
right.
looking out for a call from me here pretty soon. All right.
All right, man.
All
God
right.
bless you.
All right. Same to you,
Thanks for
man.
having me.
All right. Love you, man.
Love
I mean, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Great discussion with a guy who I think so highly of. Um, he's helped me to get where I'm sitting today. He's one of the people that have helped me get where I'm at right now, and and I'm blessed for that. And I wish the world had people around them just like I do. And so seek that out, seek that out. But I want to dedicate this show to my great uncle Fray T. Coles. He passed last week, and we buried him today. So, Uncle Frankie, this show is for you. You know, I love you, man. I love you, and I hope to see you again one day. Thanks again. Check us out on all the podcast platforms out there. This show will be up, should be available tomorrow. So go check that out, download it, do a subscribe, wait to hear our future shows. So thank you all. I look forward to, hearing from all of you about the show, and, we'll have a guest next week, or you can tune in next Monday. We have another guest coming up, and I'm pretty sure you enjoy that conversation as well. All right. Thanks.